All right, welcome to InsideFlix. We're going to be doing our weekly box office report. Rich, tell us which films made the top 5 this past weekend.
Well, this past Veterans Day weekend, Black Panther Wakanda Forever made it to the number 1 spot with 181 million. Number 2 is Black Adam with 8 million. Number 3 is Ticket to Paradise with 5.9 million. Number 4 is Lyle Lyle Crocodile with 3.2 million. And rounding out the top 5 is Smile with 2.3 million.
Okay, let's get into it. Black Panther Wakanda Forever was number 1 this weekend. I guess about what people expected. What is your guys' thoughts on this number?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be close to 200, and given this runtime, it's no doubt that I think it would have been 200 million plus.
You think the runtime played a part in the number?
I think that more than the word of mouth, because the word of mouth was generally positive.
Yeah, I mean, we were expecting this to either come in around like about, I think, 170, 180, or potentially 200.
Right.
The 200 would have been the good number, and this is still a good number. No getting around it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for me, it's really kind of showing that kind of every Marvel movie that's come out this year kind of came in a little below expectations. I was kind of expecting this to be the Marvel movie that was going to be able to kind of break those kind of low expectations and maybe even over exceed and maybe possibly even make 220 or something like that. But I guess not. And I think Richard may be right. I think the runtime probably had something to do with it, but. I don't know. I think the movie must have had some mixed word of mouth because I only know from my experience from like when I saw it in theaters, and I know like for the first half of the movie, it seemed like the audience was very into it, kind of cheering and laughing whenever they needed to. But as the movie progressed, like that kind of faded, and by the time that you get to the last like 30 minutes and they do the big Black Panther reveal and stuff like. Only like 4 people in the theater clapped. Of like there was like over 200 people in the theater and only 4 clapped. So I mean I don't know. I think there must have been some mixed word of mouth.
I think we're definitely going to see in the next couple of weeks. I mean, Wakanda Forever is going to have the whole month of November to itself. There's really no major competition until next month. So we'll see how well if this movie can have a bit of legs, if it could gain more ticket sales.
Well, I mean. It's definitely going to stick around because there's not much, competition for it for a while, really.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. But if it has a big drop number next week, and I think you could surmise that there is I wouldn't say backlash, but there is a disappointment from viewers if it does get a big drop next week.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is just a one-shot watch for most Marvel fans. But Black Adam, I really expected this to do. Maybe 15 to 20 again, but this is definitely a big drop. Another 55% drop. I wasn't expecting that much.
Yeah, I mean this is a pretty big drop. But I was actually expecting this drop to be worse for Black Adam. I'm curious how the race between Black Panther and Black Adam goes because I mean Black Adam's clearly on its way out. At the same time, both of these movies don't really have any real competition until Avatar comes out, which is like a month away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the other big surprise this week was the only kids film in the top 10 is Lyle Lyle Crocodile, only dropping 5%, and it's surpassing 40 million so far. I wouldn't be surprised if Javier Bardem gets the nomination for this film. Yeah, you could tell in those clips, man. He was going all out. I mean, he's going for it.
Rich, let's get into the rest of the box office.
Coming in number 6 was Pray for the Devil. Number 7 is The Banshees of Inisherin. Number 8 is the One Piece film Red. Number 9 is Till. And number 10 is Tar.
Let's quickly talk about The Fabelmans because this came in number 16. And it had a pretty decent per screen average. How much did it make, Rich?
Per screen, out of four theaters, $40,000. So
what was the total?
With a total gross of $161,000.
Yeah, to me, this should have been bigger. It's a pretty good per screen average. I think it did fairly comparable to what Tar made in its first week.
What was surprising is I think Banshees had a bigger screen average when it was playing in 4 screens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that ended up having a very kind of disappointing opening once it went wide. Or not wide, but once it went to like 900 screens, it only, how much to make? Like 4 million or something less than that? That's not going to be the situation for The Fabelmans. I'm sure it's going to perform much better than that. But at the same time, maybe this is kind of another kind of West Side Story box office for Spielberg.
I think that's the fear, right? I mean, Spielberg at one point in his career, in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, he was
the biggest draw.
Yeah, he was the box office guy. And now he's now at a point in his career where maybe people are not going to watch his films,
Well, he's always been that two-shot director. One movie for you, one movie for them.
But even both of those movies did very well.
Yeah.
Even some of the movies recently, like say
Ready Player One or the BFG.
Yeah, those did pretty well. I mean, not as big as his films in the 80s and 90s, but certainly not like how it is now.
But I mean, all of Spielberg's popcorn movies, I think, have been pretty much failing at the box office. I mean, his biggest success was probably Ready Player One, and I mean, that's not comparable to like what his 80s movies used to bring in.
Right.
But but Spielberg being Spielberg, this film is only like a $40 million picture anyway. So
absolutely,
yeah. So it's not that much of a gamble, especially for a Spielberg film. But is it going to get Oscar attention? That's what.
Oh yeah,
really
I think definitely. Well, we should say that it's definitely coming out in wide release in Thanksgiving weekend. So we'll see how the numbers pan out. Rich, let's get into what's coming out this week. Tell us which movies are coming out in wide release.
In wide release, so opening this weekend is She Said. Also, The Menu.
I think The Menu is going to be a hit. And I think She Said is actually going to be a big bomb. But I think it would have probably been somewhat successful if it came out like around the time that all of that stuff was kind of coming out. Everything about Harvey Weinstein. I think so much time has gone by, and the last film that kind of dealt with a little bit of that kind of Me Too stuff, the one I'm really thinking about is Bombshells. I thought that was a huge bomb. That didn't make any money.
It's true. Yeah.
So I don't see this being a hit, but I don't know if it came out maybe around the time as Bombshells, it could have probably been a hit because I think this is the movie people wanted back then.
Mm-hmm. But I think we all agree that Wakanda Forever is going to be number one again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So all the Marvel movies this year, going back to the Black Panther conversation, all the Marvel movies this year have over 65% drops in the second weekend. You think Black Panther is definitely not going to have a drop that big? Because I'm saying it'll probably be like maybe 58 to 60. I think it'll have a stronger hold than Thor and Doctor Strange, but I don't know. It wouldn't necessarily be a surprise if it has a over 65% drop.
It's very hard to gauge what the audience reaction to this movie is. If you listen to a certain group of YouTubers, they would say this is one of the best Marvel movies of all time. And you go listen to another group of YouTubers, and they will say this is the worst thing they ever seen in their life. So it's very hard to gauge to what the audience, the kind of the normie audience, think about this movie, because I think it's like we said, it potentially could have been the biggest Marvel movie of all time, box office wise. It didn't pan out that way, but it's still 180 million. It's nothing to sneeze at. It's a terrific number,
and the ratings are for the film is still doing phenomenal because it also has a cinema score of A. So
but
I think after watching the movie, I get this mistrust of just the initial reactions to the film. I mean,
are you getting a Phantom Menace situation? Because I'm feeling the Phantom Menace situation where I'm not saying it's as bad as Phantom Menace, but I'm like when people saw Phantom Menace, they really, really wanted to love that movie. And a lot of people were kind of in denial about it for a long time, literally years.
Yeah.
And I think people really wanted to love this movie because it's a very important movie. And there is stuff in this movie that's actually absolutely beautiful. I mean, the tributes to Chadwick are very emotional. And they bookend the movie with so you start the movie like emotional and then you end it emotional. So, I mean, they kind of get you in that way.
Yeah. I think it's a movie that people will have to take some time to really process and what they really, really think about the movie. But I was so disappointed.
I know.
It'd be interesting. Like that's why I say that the second week of Wakanda Forever will be an important gauge to get the temperature of what the audience think of the movie, because you can't really tell when you're watching these YouTube videos where people are saying one thing and one extreme and another thing and the other side of that extreme.
It's such a strange kind of film, also, right? Because I mean, it's clearly a movie made for general audiences. It's a popcorn film. You want to get as many people in the theater as possible, and you feel the movie's full of stuff that general audiences are going to love, like action and comedy. But at the same time, it's also a pretty heavy film, and I don't know if those general audiences are going to want to necessarily watch this over and over again the way they did for Top Gun. You know what I mean? Like Top Gun had replay value.
Yeah, and it was a feel-good movie. This one's not.
Yeah.
And also compare that to the first Black Panther, which became a cultural phenomenon, and it transcended the superhero genre. I don't think this movie does that. Rich, tell us which films are coming out in limited release this week.
And limited release opening this weekend is Bones and All, also Lamborghini, The Man Behind the Legend, and The Last Manhunt.
All right, let's get into what's streaming. Rich, what's going to be on streaming this week?
On Netflix, you'll have Slumberland, The Wonder, and Christmas with You. Over on Disney Plus, Disenchanted, which is the sequel starring Amy Adams. And over on HBO Max, A Christmas Story, Christmas. Yeah, long-awaited sequel to A Christmas Story, which no one really wanted. And over on Apple TV Plus, Spirited, the Will Ferrell, Ryan Reynolds comedy.
All right, that's it for this box office report. We'll be back next week with more box office results. We'll see how well Wakanda Forever does for its second week. And we'll talk about some of the movies coming out next week. All right. Thank you for watching InsideFlix.